My name is Seren Blake. I'm 33 years old, and for the past 10 years, I've been my family's uncredited sponsor. Not the eldest daughter, not the one they brag about, just the human wallet they call when the bills due. When my sister Vanessa needed college tuition after blowing her scholarship, I paid. When Dad's IRA tanked and Mom's dental surgery couldn't wait, I covered it. When they wanted ski trips, baby showers, and last-minute emergencies, swipe, transfer, done. Last month, I wired $18,750 for their 35th anniversary celebration, a private cruise, black tie, 4 days on Lake Michigan, no formal invite, no seat at the planning table. But still, I paid. Because that's what I do. So imagine my surprise. When I showed up at the hotel, dressed to blend in, hoping, just once, to be seen. And the concierge said, "Sorry, you're not on the guest list." That was the moment something inside me broke. And what I did next? Let's just say, the family subsidy closed. Permanently. If you've ever been the silent sponsor in your own family story, if you've ever wondered what would happen if you finally said no, stay right here. Because this is the story of how I stopped paying for their love and started investing in my own freedom. It was a quiet Tuesday, the kind where the city hum fades just enough to let you believe you're in control. My apartment sat in its usual order, glass-top coffee table gleaming, succulents obediently alive on the windowsill. I had 15 minutes left of lunch, a half-finished salad on the counter, and a rare sense of peace. Then my phone buzzed. FaceTime. Mom. I stared at the screen, heart flicking in that old, familiar way. I knew better than to expect casual check-ins. With Mom, every call was a transaction cloaked in sentiment. "Hi, sweetheart." Linda's face bloomed across the screen, filtered by the soft lighting in her favorite sunroom. "I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. I just needed a quick word." "Sure," I said, adjusting the camera. "What's up?" Her smile stretched, warm, polished, practiced. "So, your father and I were talking. The big anniversary's coming up. 35 years, can you believe it? And we want to do something really special. Not just dinner. Maybe something elegant, memorable." I nodded slowly. "Okay, we're thinking." Her voice dropped to a hush, like it was too grand to say aloud. "A private cruise. Just close family. 4 days on Lake Michigan, catered meals, live music. We could even renew our vows on the deck." There it was, the dream dangling. "And we thought," she continued, "it might be a nice gesture if someone helped out, financially. Your father's been swamped. Vanessa's still recovering from that dental surgery, poor thing. But you've always had such a generous heart." Generous heart. That's what she called it now. Not the provider, not the fallback fund, not the one who paid off Vanessa's college loans after Dad's IRA took a hit. Just generous. "How much are we talking?" I asked, careful to keep my voice even. "Oh, sweetheart, don't be so stiff." She laughed. "A new ring for the ceremony, a photographer, cruise deposit. Maybe $15,000? That's nothing compared to what you make, right?" I didn't respond. I couldn't. She continued like it was settled. "And we thought we could make it a surprise for the guests. You know, present it like it was all family effort. Your name doesn't have to be on the program or anything." Of course not. My name was never on the program. Not at the last anniversary dinner where Vanessa sang and Charles toasted everyone. Except me. Not in the graduation speeches I bankrolled. Not even in the thank you notes where I was thanked vaguely as a special someone. But my routing number? Never forgotten. I glanced at my planner on the kitchen counter. A soft ping drew my eyes to my laptop. A message from Claire blinked across the screen. "Claire, you sure you're okay with this?" She knew. Claire always knew. She'd been the pariah once, excluded from a family retreat for not chipping in on a hotel block. Aunt Carol called her ungrateful, but really, she just couldn't afford the Four Seasons. I'm just so proud of how far you've come, Mom was saying. You've always had that stable job. So solid. You're the rock of this family. Funny. No one ever called me the eldest child they were proud of. Just the one with a steady income. The ATM with a voice. I'll think about it, I said quietly. Well, don't take too long, she said. Deposits go fast. And you'll be there, right, sweetheart? It wouldn't feel complete without you. Linda's voice was honey and arsenic. They wanted my signature, not my presence. The air in my office was dry from the heating system, humming low beneath the floorboards. I sat at my desk, pen poised over a printed statement, the corners curling slightly from the printer's heat. The final transfer, $18,750, due by noon today, or the restaurant would release the date. I stared at the paper like it might blink first. I should have felt proud, being able to afford something so extravagant. But instead, it felt like writing a check to vanish. Madison Lowe, my accountant, leaned against the glass partition separating my office from the rest of the floor. You're unusually quiet, she said, placing a soft copy of the expense breakdown on my desk. Are you sure they invited you this time? I gave her a look. Not sharp, but not soft either. She'd been working with me long enough to know the answer before I did. No formal invite, I said. But they said it was family only. She raised a brow. And your family? I laughed. It came out hollow. Apparently, only when it's time to pay the bill. She gave me a sympathetic nod and left me to sign the transfer. I did it in silence, watching the ink loop through my name like a slow incision. My phone buzzed. A text from Claire. Claire, you could just not show up, you know. I stared at it for a long minute, my thumb hovering. Claire had always been blunt, the kind of cousin who would call out a lie even if it was gift-wrapped. I was about to reply when another memory surfaced. Dinner last week. Vanessa had been tipsy off that second glass of red, swaying slightly in her seat when she leaned across the table and said, "What about her? Everyone knows I don't have a boyfriend." The way Mom's eyes flashed, the way Dad cleared his throat. It hadn't meant much then, but now it echoed, mocking. I opened my closet that night and stared at the lineup of neutral dresses, the kind you wear when you're trying not to outshine anyone. I picked the blue one, the one that hugged my waist without asking for applause. Still no text back from Mom. I sent another. Me. Just confirming details. Arrival time? Nothing. The night of the party, I arrived 15 minutes late. Not because I wanted to make an entrance, but because Claire had to drive across the city to hand me an invitation. A real one. Folded once, cream cardstock, embossed floral border. No name, just guest. Claire met me at the entrance, lips pressed thin. They said it was an oversight, she muttered, handing me the envelope. But honestly, screw that. She held the door for me. Inside, the room shimmered in soft candlelight and polished wood. Waitstaff glided like shadows, and every table had a printed seating chart, none of which included me. A laugh rose from somewhere near the head table. Vanessa, in a white dress like she was the bride. Mom and Dad flanked her, chatting with the pastor who had married them 35 years ago. I slipped in unnoticed, just as they liked it. Claire leaned closer and whispered, "Whether they like it or not." And for a brief second, I believed her. I'd studied. I'd worked double shifts. I'd paid for every crisis with my name on the dotted line. But I'd never had a head seat. Not at birthdays, not at weddings, not at this. And now, I wasn't even on the list. I arrived early, just in case. Turns out I was late. To the realization. The hotel glowed like a promise. Glass chandeliers humming with gold, soft jazz spilling through the revolving doors. I adjusted the strap of my purse and stepped in. the soft click of my heels disappearing into the carpeted floor. At the front desk, a young woman in a black blazer greeted me with a poised smile. Name, please? Seren Blake, I said, brushing my coat back. I believe I'm already on the list. She typed quickly, eyes flicking from her screen to my face. Then again, slower this time. I'm sorry, ma'am, she said, trying not to wince. You're not listed as one of the guests. A pause stretched between us, heavy and glacial. I'm sorry, could you check again? It's for Charles and Linda Blake's anniversary. I covered the venue. I kept my tone even, but I could feel the heat rising under my collar. She hesitated. Yes, it's for the Blakes. But no, I'm afraid your name isn't here. Behind her, the hall was already filling. Champagne flutes twinkled under the crystal light. A string quartet played something delicate and forgettable. Guests in black tie attire drifted toward laughter and hors d'oeuvres. Then I saw her, Vanessa. She posed at the archway of white roses with a friend's arm curled around her shoulder. Her dress shimmered, flawless, effortless. A selfie, a flash, another laugh. She didn't even glance toward the entrance. I stood still. Is there a problem? A voice called. Linda emerged from the side hallway, flawless in a navy gown, her diamond earrings winking under the chandeliers. She smiled like a mother in a toothpaste commercial. Polished, practiced. Oh, sweetheart, she said, tone sugar-coated with a twist of artificial lemon. What happened? The list, I said flatly. They can't find my name. She gave a little laugh, not too loud, just enough for sympathy. Must be a system error. These things happen. She didn't move, didn't signal for the receptionist, didn't say, come in. Instead, she touched my arm lightly and said, You must be so busy. I completely understand if you can't stay the whole evening. Behind her, I saw Mr. Hendricks. I paid for his son's therapy last year. Sipping a drink. Next to him, Jenna from Aunt Celeste's family, whom I helped with hospital bills when she gave birth early. They were all inside. I wasn't. A rush of heat surged to my face, but I didn't say a word. Not here. Not now. I turned away slowly, nodding as if the whole thing was a clerical inconvenience, as if I hadn't written the check that made the night happen. Outside, the wind had teeth. I pulled out my phone and tapped the Uber app. Estimated arrival, 6 minutes. Long enough to feel the sting. I opened my banking app. 2 clicks later, I was staring at the linked accounts. The ones I'd set up for Linda years ago when she said, It's just for emergencies. Her name was still there. Access to my savings, my overflow fund, my backup fund. One by one, I removed them. Then I opened notes. New folder. The ledger. New entry. $18,750. Final insult. I stared out the window as headlights streaked across the pavement like broken promises. If I'm not part of the celebration, then I'll stop paying for the show. Nobody apologized. Not one text. Not even a missed call. The sun filtered through my apartment window like it had something to prove, bathing the living room in gold I didn't ask for. I sat cross-legged on the couch, a steaming mug of coffee growing cold in my hand. My laptop balanced on my knees, open to a spreadsheet with rows of dates, dollar signs, and memories I couldn't return. 10 years. I hadn't realized how much of my life had been quantified until I laid it all out. Tuition reimbursements, medical bills, emergency flights, deposits for cars that weren't mine. I tagged each transaction. Color-coded, itemized, labeled. Transaction, love. Response, decline. My phone buzzed. A message from Claire. Claire, you okay? I didn't answer. I was, in that strange, measured way grief can feel like clarity. Another buzz. Vanessa. Mom says you're being dramatic. Of course she did. That's how they survived. By repackaging betrayal as family quirks, dismissing hurt as emotional overreaction. I didn't reply. I opened my banking app instead. First, the secondary credit card, the one Linda used for household expenses. Click, removed. Second, the auto pay schedule, Dad's health insurance, canceled. Monthly contribution to Vanessa's daughter's tuition, canceled. The Blake family subsidy, closed for business. I stared at the confirmation screens like they were confessions. For the first time in years, I felt a sliver of power. Not loud, not dramatic, just clean. The screen dimmed. Another message. Claire, I need to show you something. Let's meet? I hesitated, then texted back. Me. What is it? No answer. Instead, 10 minutes later, an email landed. No subject. One attachment. I opened it. A screenshot. A conversation between Linda and someone saved as Elise. Planner. Elise. Just confirming. Still no RSVP from Seren? Should I follow up? Linda. Don't worry. Seren will pay. She never says no, even when she's not invited. I stared at the screen. Read it once, twice, 3 times. Then I smiled. No tears, no rage, just something deeper, like steel folding inside me. Then it's time they hear me say no. They never expected me to keep receipts, but I did. All of them. The brunch invitation came on cream cardstock embossed with gold foil. A private family gathering, hosted by Claire? No details, no mention of reconciliation. But the moment I saw the address, her gallery on Belmont Avenue, I knew this wasn't about croissants and coffee. A week had passed since the party. No one had called. Linda's silence had calcified into something smug. Vanessa posted a filtered photo of herself in a sun hat captioned, "Family always comes first," conveniently cropped to exclude me. But I hadn't been idle. I'd been curating. The gallery space was modest and whitewashed, sunlight pouring through the high windows onto concrete floors. Claire greeted guests with orange juice and careful smiles, steering them toward the long table in the center. Everyone came dressed like they expected a therapy circle and maybe a group hug. I arrived last. Every eye turned when the door clicked shut behind me. I didn't speak at first, just walked calmly to the head of the table and set my iPad down. Claire gave a small nod. She tapped the gallery projector. The lights dimmed. A single slide lit up the wall. The Ledger, A Decade of Generosity, by Seren Blake. I stood tall, voice steady. I've never asked for much. Not praise, not recognition, just a seat at the table. Another slide. A spreadsheet. 2014, Vanessa's tuition, $47,320. 2015. Mom's emergency dental surgery, $5,100. 2016 through 2018. Monthly support. Household expenses, $34,200. 2019, Dad's insurance premiums, $16,800 2020. Baby shower for Vanessa's daughter, $3,650. The numbers kept rolling. Gasps fluttered. A chair scraped back. Then a text appeared. The same screenshot Claire had sent me. Seren will pay. She never says no, even when she's not invited. Linda's face went pale. I said yes to everything, I said, eyes moving from face to face, except myself. My throat tightened, but I didn't let it crack. I let you use my silence as permission. I let love become a transaction, and I paid for every lie with interest. Starting today, I reclaim my no. The room was stone. Charles stood abruptly, red creeping up his neck. Turn that off right now. I didn't flinch. I paid for this room, I said quietly. Remember? A pause. Then, from the far end of the table, Aunt Jeannie, barely 5 feet tall and always wrapped in lavender shawls, stood slowly. She didn't say a word, just nodded once and moved beside me. Claire lifted her phone, still recording. The red light blinked. The truth was no longer a secret. Forgiveness doesn't require return, just release. The boxes were nearly unpacked. Light filtered through gauzy curtains onto pale wood floors. The space smelled like eucalyptus and lemon, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything for the roof over my head. A month had passed. A new state, a new lease, a new kind of quiet. Not the kind that came from avoidance, but the kind you earn after walking through fire and deciding not to carry the ashes with you. My laptop chimed. From Linda Blake. Subject: We miss you. Can we fix this? No apology, just sweetness, curated carefully like one of her dinner table centerpieces. Lovely to look at. Hollow underneath. I closed the message without opening it. My phone buzzed. Claire. Sent you something. Check your mail. It was a gallery photo. A painting titled Balance. A figure mid-stride across a tightrope, carrying nothing but a lantern. Claire had included a note. For the sister who learned to stop dimming her light. I smiled. In the kitchen, Madison was going over a draft proposal. She wore her glasses lower on her nose than usual, hair up in a quick bun, sleeves rolled. We had agreed to start something together. A consulting service for clients who, like me, had been drained quietly, financially, emotionally, under the guise of family, loyalty, obligation. You still want to name it Clear Ledger? She asked. I nodded. It's not just about spreadsheets, it's about proof. About not letting people rewrite your story with guilt. She leaned back. You'd be amazing at this. If I can free myself, I said quietly, I can help others. I turned to my desk. One final form awaited. A petition for a legal name change. I'd signed everything, triple-checked it, but waited until today, until I knew I wasn't doing it out of anger, but out of becoming. I tapped the screen with my stylus. Seren Vale. No longer the bank, no longer the fixer. Just me. Seren, the one who endured, and Vale, the place of quiet power. Outside, spring was arriving early. Buds lined the edges of the sidewalks, and the neighbor's golden retriever barked playfully at the breeze. Then I saw the new file envelope on my desk. Thick. Official. Subject: The Blake Legacy Trust. Frozen assets. I stared at it for a moment, then smiled. Some stories don't end. They evolve. And this time I had the pen. Growing up, I believed in earning love. Not just showing up and receiving it, but working, sacrificing, offering more than asked, hoping someone would see it and call it enough. That belief shaped everything. My career, my relationships, the way I moved through the world with quiet precision and calculated generosity. But there's something dangerous about teaching a child that love comes with a ledger. For years, I told myself I was supporting the family, that I was the strong one, the responsible sister. I swallowed every oversight, every forgotten birthday, every event I paid for but wasn't invited to, every time my name was missing but my bank account wasn't. I rationalized, minimized, justified, until I couldn't. The day of the anniversary party broke something in me, not because I wasn't on the list, but because I finally stopped pretending it was a mistake. I stood there in the lobby, wearing the dress I bought to fit in, holding the invitation Claire printed for me, and realized I was never meant to be seen, only used. When I got home, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop. Line by line, I created the ledger, not just to list transactions, but to understand the cost of silence. 10 years, $327,450.74. Tuition, mortgage help, insurance, hospital bills, birthdays, baby showers. All marked paid. Not once marked appreciated. Claire's message confirmed what my gut had known, but my heart had refused to believe. Serene will pay. She always does. And they were right. I always had. Until that day. At brunch, I didn't tremble. I walked in with my iPad, not as a victim, but as someone who had rewritten her own script. I showed them the numbers, the receipts, the text messages. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't plead. I just told the truth. And truth, as it turns out, speaks louder than guilt. Vanessa averted her eyes. Charles looked like he'd aged a decade. And Linda? Well, she smiled that tight little smile she always wore when things slipped out of her control. But I didn't need her apology anymore. Because justice, real justice, isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's simply about no longer playing along. I walked away from that gallery with nothing in my hands but everything in my heart. I left Chicago a week later. New name, new apartment, new beginnings, no more monthly transfers. No more calls that only came when bills were due. No more waiting for acknowledgement that was never coming. Madison and I launched Clear Ledger 3 weeks after I moved. Clients came in quietly, one by one. Women who had co-signed loans for ungrateful siblings, sons who had funded their parents' retirement only to be erased from family photos, daughters like me, the dependable ones, the invisible ones. We listened. We offered strategy. We helped them say no, not with cruelty, but with clarity. I didn't hear from Linda again until her email arrived on a Wednesday afternoon. "We miss you. Can we fix this?" There was no apology, no admission, just the faint scent of entitlement masked as affection. I archived it. That evening, Claire sent me a photo of a new painting at her gallery. It was titled Balance. A woman walking across a tightrope carrying nothing but light. I printed it, framed it, hung it in my office right above the desk where I'd signed the form to legally become Seren Blake. I am not the family vault anymore. I am not the safety net. I am not the silent provider waiting to be noticed. I am Seren Blake, and I remember everything. Not out of bitterness, but out of belief that we become free only when we stop lying to ourselves about what we deserve. Let them carry their own weight now. And so she left not in anger, but in truth. Not to hurt them, but to heal herself. Some debts are paid in silence, until one day, silence answers back. Like the final verdict of a long-delayed trial, justice may come quietly. But when it arrives, it changes everything. No lie, no guilt, no manipulation lasts forever against the weight of a single, undeniable truth. And for those who think control is forever, they forget. The one who pays attention is also the one who pays the bill. I know some of you are probably sitting there, fists clenched, heart pounding, because this sounds a little too familiar. Maybe you've been the Seren in your family, the dependable one, the fixer, the peacekeeper, the person who says, "Sure, I can help," even when your own rent is late, even when your bank account says otherwise, even when your mental health is screaming for air. Maybe you've watched siblings, parents, relatives stand in rooms you paid for, laugh at dinners you funded, smile in photos you weren't invited to be in, and maybe, just maybe, you've sat in your car afterward, staring at a bank app, watching your own worth drain out in dollars and cents. I want to say this as clearly as possible. You're not crazy. You're not selfish. And you are absolutely allowed to stop paying for your place in a family that never intended to truly include you. Setting boundaries doesn't make you heartless. Saying no doesn't make you cruel. Choosing yourself, after years of choosing everyone else, doesn't make you the villain. It makes you free. When I started documenting every dollar, when I opened that spreadsheet and named what had been unnamed for years, it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about getting the money back. It was about seeing the truth for the first time without flinching. And that truth gave me something my family never did. Peace. So if you're still watching, if you've made it this far into my story, I want to thank you. Thank you for holding space for this truth. Thank you for listening to the parts I was once too ashamed to say out loud. And most of all, thank you for being part of a community where we remind each other. Your worth is not tied to your paycheck. Your value isn't measured by the number of times you rescue people who would never do the same for you. You don't have to bleed yourself dry to earn love. If this story spoke to something in you, drop a comment below. Tell me your version of the ledger. Tell me about the moment you knew you were done. Or if you're not there yet. Tell me what's keeping you stuck. And if you want more stories like this, about boundaries, about reclaiming your narrative, about turning quiet survival into loud healing, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with someone who might need it. Because somewhere out there, someone else is writing their own ledger, and they need to know they're not alone anymore. Thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing yourself. I'm Avery Lancaster, 32, and last weekend, I watched my father raise a glass to his legacy without even saying my name. 4 years since I set foot at the Lancaster estate. 4 years since I stopped answering their PR calls, their holiday invitations, and every thinly veiled attempt to pull me back under their brand. And yet, there it was. An invitation. Heavy cardstock. My stepmother Margaret's perfect handwriting on the front, like a dare disguised as decorum. When I arrived, my name wasn't on the guest list, not on the welcome board, not in the seating plan, not even whispered over champagne flutes, but before they could finish their speeches, before Robert could toast Grant as the future of the family, they heard something else. A low rumble over the Atlantic, the sound of my jet, descending over their perfect garden party, carrying my name on its side in 12-inch chrome letters. And for the first time in years, they all had to look up. If you've ever been erased by the people who were supposed to love you, if you've ever been treated like a footnote in your own story, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from as I explain exactly how I stopped waiting for their table and built my own. She let the thick pressed envelope rest against her fingertips, its weight somehow heavier than the cardstock could justify. The script on the front, Margaret's elegant, looping hand, had once addressed birthday cards, college care packages, even those neatly written letters that stopped arriving once Avery declined the offer to work for the family trust. Now, it summoned her back. Through the loft's floor-to-ceiling windows, warm spring sunlight filtered across polished concrete floors and cast pale reflections onto the chrome kitchen island. Outside, the hum of Soho was muffled beneath the double-glazed glass, New York on a Saturday morning in full bloom. But inside, silence reigned, taut as piano wire. Chloe stood across from her, arms crossed.